Hey guys. This is the part 11 for What If Naruto Was a Businessman and the Owner of a Company. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 14. Team 7 raced through the trees of the Forest of Death as they attempted to make their way out of the forest and head towards the Hokage mansion. It seemed that Kakashi was the only one who was feeling the slight pressure or seriousness of the situation. Naruto's expression was unreadable due to the small look of interest that he always held in his eyes. Sakura just continued to jump across on the trees with her scroll in hand, reading over the instructions. Ever since she had her chakra restored after Naruto dropped it down to be stored somewhere, she now felt even stronger. With the added month that they were given, she figured that she could get Naruto to show her some other taijutsu technique. Even if she didn't voice it, Sakura was sure that with all of Naruto's emphasis on her taijutsu, then she would be a lot more versatile. She had seen the benefits of her training when she had faced those 3 Oto genin. She wasn't sure what to make of that time, but she also tried not to dwell on it for so long. The only thing that kept coming back to her was her disagreement with her teammate, Sasuke. For odd reasons, she felt like even when he had that power, she could still take him. The power rolled off his body like a vat of poisoned water that dropped to the ground, but she could feel from her connection to him that his chakra coils were running dry and very fast. It probably didn't help that they had faced the Sannin, Orochimaru, beforehand, and they were both quite tired, but Sakura had reminded herself that this was one of Konoha's former top shinobi. They stood no chance, but when he insulted Naruto, she had lost it. She didn't know where she got the gall to try and fight him, but it was a very good feeling. Sasuke was thinking somewhere along the same lines as Sakura, though his were more drawn to a small glare at Naruto, who was hopping on the trees beside him without a care in the world. He just couldn't understand it. The blonde was supposed to be on their rank, and yet he gave off an air of respect and authority that no one, not even the Uchiha, could talk back to. Sasuke remembered how Naruto stopped both him and Sakura at the same time with little effort before he performed some unknown move and knocked the brunette Uchiha out. What was it about the blonde's nature? At first glance he was cold, calculating, uncaring, and powerful, yet he also had that certain charisma that just drew people to him. Sasuke didn't understand, but it irked him. He hated to admit it, but he envied Naruto's charisma, though he wasn't sure if the blonde knew about it or not. He touched the nape of his neck and cursed. He had to get stronger. If Naruto was stronger than he was, then Itachi was stronger than Naruto, and that meant that Sasuke was much weaker than his brother, and that could not stand. Sasuke broke his stare from Naruto and looked at his fate seal, and then turned to look at Sakura, his rage suddenly returning in full when he looked at her, not even being physically aware of her surroundings, but dodging tree limbs and branches like it was child's play. Oh sure, Sasuke knew that Naruto was training Sakura, but for the pink-haired girl to get that good in such little time was unnerving for the Uchiha. She had the audacity to challenge his authority, especially when she released her seals and flared her chakra right in his face. Now she felt even stronger. She looked even more confident, and when she was doing something for the team, her eyes adopted a look so similar to Naruto's that it was scary. Her eyes would low slightly, her lips would go into a neutral tone, and her body would lay relaxed yet heavily guarded. Where did this confidence stem from? It couldn't have just been Naruto, could it? No way. Meanwhile, Naruto had his own thoughts rolling around in his head. He was undoubtedly going to see Kisa again after so long. It wasn't to say that the idea wasn't pleasing to him, or that he hated it, but his mind was more or less upon the focus of him telling the woman that it was entirely possible that her daughter was alive, and, he wouldn't say very well, but maybe he could say that she was well off for the most part. She was alive, and that was all that mattered. It could also be said that out of anyone in Exodus, Naruto was the only person who could effectively handle Kisa whenever she was irrational, angry, or unpleasant. He had a feeling that he would have to be doing it again. Then there was Orochimaru and Anko. Naruto never got to talk to the latter at the time that he wanted. That pathetic incident suddenly happened to him forbade him from do so. However, from taking Anko's control and her reserves, Naruto finally mastered number 16 out of 30 jutsu that he had planned himself to learn. Each of them went up in the scale of difficulty. Now he could work on number 15 and the others from then on. Each had their own measure of control, extraordinary control that had to be flawlessly or it spelled death. Naruto turned his head slightly and glanced at Sakura's form. He stared at her for a bit before closing his eyes. Maybe it was time that he gave her something extra special. He had always intended to teach it to someone else, but he doubted anyone could understand its mechanics, Naruto's very first A-rank technique. The thought slightly intrigued Naruto, but before that could happen he would have to go and see Danzo once again, but he supposed that he could think about that later. They would all be coming back to this forest in a month, and in that month, Naruto was sure he would get down number 15. Kakashi was only thinking of his book, but also what to do in training the three. Perhaps if this played out then he could offer something to the three. He had contemplated teaching the three his technique, but he then discarded it. Neither Naruto nor Sakura had the physical capacity to fully use his technique, the Chidori. It had a drawback of tunnel vision, thus making it easy to counter, unless one had the Sharingan. It was obvious that neither Sakura nor Naruto had that, so there was no point, but maybe he could give them something to work on while he helped Sasuke harness the power of the Chidori. That way he would still be a teacher, teaching them the correct ways and handle some one-on-one time with the young Uchiha. It wasn't a bad strategy. He also hoped that they wouldn't be too angry with him. The four finally rushed out of the trees and landed on the ground, but only for a second as they jumped into the air and dashed for the Hokage mansion. Remember what I told you three. Sasuke, be respectful. Sakura, be nice. Naruto, show some emotion, Kakashi said with a smile. Sasuke snorted before nodding. Sakura rolled her eyes, but chose not to respond. Naruto did nothing, just giving his sensei an even look, but he didn't capitalize on it. Nothing was said after that for the entire journey of Team 7 towards the Hokage mansion. They made it through the front door and went up the stairs. Kakashi took a deep sigh of his lips and knocked on the door. Come in, came a voice as Kakashi grabbed the doorknob. He turned back to his team one last time before opening the door. It could be said that little to nothing surprised Kisa. Being that she spent a deal of her life traveling with a certain blonde, then she learned not to expect most things. It was one of the things that made Naruto trust her with the company until he wanted to be found out. It was also why she had been both an expert mercenary and kunoichi. She just expected what came naturally. It also helped somewhat that she got a little sleep in the mansion the previous nights. It wasn't the most comfortable that she had been in, but she didn't complain. Every time she brought up the question of where they were staying, the shinobi merely tried to give her incomplete answers or half-assed ones. If there was anything Kisa hated more than paperwork, then it was being lied to, but she digressed. Kisa watched Team 7 come into the room. She took the time to eye them all. The one with gray hair that had the lazy look in his eye, she didn't really know how to respond. He just seemed like a small introvert. His hand lazily in his pocket, while the other gripped an orange book that she now identified as the famous Ika Ika series. Not that this bothered her really. Kisa never really cared for what other people read or didn't read. That was their own shit. Whatever they got their kicks on, then she would keep it to her own self. Sorry if someone was expecting her to narrow his eyes in disgust, but then again she did not care and never would. She was calm and content with her womanhood and body that she didn't care about being ogled. It was sort of endearing in its own messed up way, but when those people suddenly started getting more confident with their hands, it was then that she would bring a new meaning to the word yoga. From the oldest man, she went down to the black-haired child. He stared at her rather firmly from what she gathered and stared back for a little. The two seemed to have their own little battle of whatever superiority before she noticed his eyes turn from hers. Kisa's eyelids lowered slightly as she felt a strange yet familiar source of chakra in the boy's body. It felt very evil, vile, and all around malignant. Well, if he was safe enough to be around the Hokage, then she wouldn't say anything. She snorted before moving her eyes to the next. Her eyes fell to the young kunoichi with pink hair. She didn't really get a good look at her face since it was covered by a scroll. Kisa raised an eyebrow before she turned to the leader of the group. Kakashi gave a sheepish chuckle before clearing his throat. Sakura, he called, and the girl now identified as Sakura for Kisa, lowered her scroll, revealing her emerald eyes to the green-haired woman. Kisa's eyes widened very slightly in surprise. It was very rare to find such a confident power exuding from a young woman so early in her years. It was also rare to find a well of knowledge from the look in her eyes. She carried herself with dignity, purpose, ambition, and strength. Sakura stared at the supposed president of Exodus before nodding to herself as she pocketed her scroll into her pouch. Kisa offered a small nod for herself before turning to the last person. When Kisa's eyes fell on this person, she felt a sudden warmth come to her eyes as she stared at the shiny, yellow hair of the one she already knew as Uzumaki Naruto. She and Naruto stared at each other for what seemed like an eternity. For all her memory, Kisa at that moment couldn't remember just how long they had been apart, but seeing him now, he was so different. Much taller and much slimmer from his early years was what she had observed. The description that Fugai and Ryuzetsu offered her did not do him justice at all. Naruto carried himself with even more dignity than Sakura. He carried with him the hopes and dreams of hundreds of people. He held a confident, but not overconfident stance. Steady yet guarded. Calm yet alert. It still crept Kisa out that he had such a look. It could never be lost. Nor could the look of his blue eyes. How Kisa remembered finding herself fascinated by those eyes time after time. Eyes that could hold warmth and firmness at the same time. She sucked in her breath and let out a small sigh. You still haven't changed, Naruto. Outwardly, you're still a mystery even to me. Yet, why do I see that you've come to a bigger understanding than when we were all together? I hope to talk with you at least once during this trip, Kisa thought to herself before she shook her head and closed her eyes. There would be time for this later. She also didn't want to draw on more attention than she was sure that they were getting. Kisa gave a firm nod before her eyes turned firm. Team 7 reporting Hokage-sama, Kakashi said while Sarutobi nodded with a small smile on his face. The Sandaime seemed to be quite happy to see them all, as he could tell that Kisa was a little eager to get this meeting underway. He was sure that she had some other problems that needed to be done, and they wouldn't get done with her waiting for Kakashi's team. Well, at least the Jonin wasn't late this time. If he was, then Hiruzen was sure that the man's head was going to roll. So this is the amazing Team 7 that Wave likes to talk about. You are exactly as you were described, Kisa said, and Kakashi rubbed the back of his head. Sasuke snorted and Sakura raised an eyebrow. Naruto didn't say anything, just settling for looking out the window. He seemed to be looking at something in particular, but no one was really sure. Well, we have my cute genin for that. We can leave it to Naruto to lay a guilt trip that would allow us to continue, Kakashi said nonchalantly. He shouldn't have had to. We should have said yes regardless because it was right. Self-preservation is usually self-destruction. Everyone turned and looked at Sakura like the girl had just grown a second head. She shrugged and turned to Naruto's direction, but she just saw him looking out the window with narrowed eyes, though it was clear that he had heard her with the unseen smile on his face was any indication. Ma Sakura, don't be like that. We got the job done and Exodus moved back thankfully, Kakashi said while Kisa gave a soft chuckle that just barely masked the yawn she wanted to emit. She was still dead tired. As she had said before, she was not a morning person. Of which I must express my immense gratitude to all of you for what you have done. Gato truly was a thorn in our sides. We'd be happy to fund more of Konoha's projects, as well as continue to share trade profits made between Kuni and Konoha. However, I would also like to say that Konoha indeed has some fine shinobi. You all look very capable. I think I could get some missions lined up if I knew such capable genin were there, Kisa said professionally, which she still fucking hated with every fiber of her being, but she still had to keep this facade. You flatter us, Kisa-sama. We were just doing what we always do. Nothing more, Kakashi said. Sasuke offered a small smirk while Sakura firmly nodded. Naruto did seem to show anything, but Kisa noticed the gentle warmth in his eyes, finally taking his attention from window to back to the conversation. Maybe he had changed more than she expected. I expect to see more of that potential during the Chunin exams. Who knows? Impress me enough and I think I'll consider one of you three to take part in a tradition long before the nations came into play. Think of it as something of politics with a dynamic twist, but I digress. I thank you, Haruno Sakura, Uchiha Sasuke, Hatake Kakashi, and Uzumaki Naruto for all you have done for my company, Kisa said, getting bows from 3 out of the 4. Just guess who didn't bow. Kisa turned her head before slowly advancing in her steps towards the young blonde of the team. With her heels, and her already tall frame, she towered over him, forcing Naruto to lean his head back a little, while Kisa offered a wide smile. But I want to thank you the most, Uzumaki Naruto. You inspired Wave to retake their country with their own hands. Some men told me that you showed them the difference between being men and being insects. A fitting thing, I should add, but I also am happy that you motivated them enough as people make declarations of the great Naruto Bridge. You truly are an amazing young man, Kisa said, and Naruto narrowed his eyes when he looked at her. He could tell that she wasn't truly focused on the story, but he knew what she was saying in general. His eyes blinked before opening up again. Kisa and Naruto stared at each other for a little while. He could literally feel the eyes burrowing into his skull from Sarutobi, Sasuke, Sakura, and Kakashi. He brought out a sigh before closing his eyes once again. I did nothing significant. It was how it should have been in the first place. The need to have a bridge named after me is a gracious thought, but I couldn't truly care for it. However, you are welcome that this mission helped you. May you continue to prosper, Naruto answered, and Kisa's eyes narrowed slightly before she offered a wider grin. He really hadn't changed. Still not being accepting of praise where it was due. Well, she didn't know what to make of it. That's just how he always was. By the way, how has Tsunami-san been with her new job? Naruto suddenly asked with a raised eyebrow. Everyone glanced to each other, but no one said anything while Kisa snickered. Oh, the woman is a welcome change to our company. You could say that our president has an eye for these sorts of people. I couldn't be happier, Kisa said, and Naruto just accepted that before pulling back from any other questions. He nodded and Kisa turned around, straightening her attire while she did so. Well, Hokage-sama, it seems that you have a great bunch of people. I thank you for what you have done for us. Now then, about the matter of our settlements. While we are grateful that the Hokage has allowed us to use the rooms available at the Hokage mansion, we feel that we have overstayed that welcome enough, and we'd like to be a little more out, for lack of a better term. We had this arranged beforehand, did we not? Kisa asked, and Sarutobi gulped. Sakura tilted her head to the side while Sasuke snorted. Okay, Kakashi, we're done here. Can I leave now? I'd like to get started on my training, Sasuke said while Kakashi sighed. You're right. Excuse us, Hokage-sama, Kakashi said, but he was sure that Sarutobi didn't hear him as the elderly man was sweating bullets at the moment. Naruto pinched the bridge of his nose in irritation. This sight was very pathetic in his eyes, and one that made the blonde honestly reconsider some things, even if he kept those thoughts to himself. Kisa-san, we're just making sure that everything is in order, that is all. We also fear for your safety and the safety of your members. You have come at a difficult time, Sarutobi answered, and Kisa quickly frowned while folding her arms underneath her impressive burst. I do believe that we can take care of ourselves, Hokage-sama. However, I do believe that this farce has gone on long enough. I do not like being lied to. Just be honest and tell me that your hotels got overbooked and you forgot about us, Kisa said. Sakura and Naruto were then subjected to Sarutobi holding his head down with a long sigh. A miscalculated event transpired as more people arrived than we had thought. I am very sorry, but I have no open rooms for you at the moment. There is nothing I can do without kicking someone out of their own rooms. Please forgive me, Hiruzen spoke, still holding his head down, while Kisa allowed her frustration to leak out in the form of a small sigh. She pinched the bridge of her nose, her mood effectively ruined. She had always found Konoha shinobi rather distinct when compared to some of the other nations, but this was ridiculous. So, in response, Kisa merely dropped her shoulders. Well, nothing can be done about it now. I suppose we'll just have to rough it out. That's the only thing that we can do, Kisa said, her voice bordering the line of irritation, but she tried to keep herself composed. She had an image to uphold, and while she could have given anyone's ass about that, it wouldn't do good for her or her team in the long run. It was all just a point of perspective. Very well. I'll have to tell the others of this. They won't be happy, but I'll make them deal with it. I'll come back here tomorrow to discuss some things with you when I can keep this headache off, Kisa said, and Sarutobi blew a puff of smoke from his pipe before slowly nodding, still very disappointed with himself. Hokage-sama. Kisa and Hiruzen turned and noticed Naruto standing right next to Kisa. Sakura blinked at the speed which he moved, but that wasn't all she was looking at. No, she was looking at the scolding look on the blonde's face. "What is it, Naruto-kun?" Sarutobi asked, and Naruto sighed. "I shouldn't have to do this, if those foolish shinobi had done their jobs accordingly, but I am willing to put up with Exodus at my house for the duration of their stay within Konoha's walls," Naruto proclaimed. Sarutobi's eyes shot open while Kisa raised an eyebrow. Sakura gasped while Naruto shrugged his shoulders. The silence in the room was deafening before Sarutobi finally spoke. "Naruto, I understand that you mean well, but I cannot and will not allow them to stay with you. You live in Konoha's most dangerous training ground. That is not safe for them. I'm sure that you understand this, but I will not put them in harm's way like that," Hiruzen said while Sakura took her turn to step forward. "Naruto-sensei, didn't you detonate your house with seals during the Chunin exams, killing that Curie team? What other house do you have?" Sakura asked, and before Naruto could offer an explanation, Sarutobi voiced his question. "You blew up your house, Naruto-kun? Why?" Sarutobi asked, and Naruto folded his arms. "The Forest of Death has nothing more that it can teach me. Other than the Dark Zone, there is no place that I haven't been already. As for the other part of your second question, I have found the need to expand. There is also something that I would like to go over with you and the council at another time, Hokage-sama," Naruto said, and Hiruzen noted his serious tone, not like he had any other tone, but nodded nonetheless. "Very well, Naruto-kun, but that still doesn't explain what you mean," Sarutobi said, and Naruto sighed before reaching into his jacket. He then pulled out a scroll and unfurled it, letting it fall down. "I have recently come over an area of land that can suit all of the members of Kisa-san's entourage if she wishes. That can stay with me, and I will place seals around the house to keep them safe. It is a big building, thus it can more than accommodate whoever comes. I haven't yet notified Hataki, Uchiha, nor Sakura of this location, but by the end of today then she will know where it is," Naruto answered, and Sarutobi looked down at the deed to a house. "A very nice house," he noted. He also noted the signature of one, Roshiki Daruma or Lucky Rashi. "And how did you come across this?" the Sandaime asked while Naruto's frown deepened. "There is a reason that I have come to detest gambling as much as I do," Naruto said cryptically. Kisa instantly understood what that meant and shook her head slightly. Sakura blinked, but didn't speak, opting to suddenly be looking in the direction Naruto had been looking previous, as in out the window. She noticed a very large chakra signature far off. It felt just as strong as Orochimaru's, but nowhere near as vile or disgusting. It was light-hearted at best. "Naruto-kun, this is within the red light district," Sarutobi said, and Naruto folded his arms. "Is that a problem?" he asked with a stern tone that made the aging Hokage sigh and rub his eyes with his fingers. "I truly wonder how much tact you have, Naruto-kun. I don't think they'd like to see those kind of sights," Sarutobi said, and Naruto remained silent for a little while. "Are you a good cook?" Both turned as they noticed Kisa staring at Naruto, interested. Yes, she already knew he could cook, very fucking well, but Sarutobi didn't know that she knew that. "Hi," Naruto said, not expanding on any skills unless needed to. "Is there plumbing? Lights? A working bath? Comfortable beds?" Kisa asked, and Naruto nodded to them all without a slight look of doubt. "Then I'm for it. As long as it has those, then I couldn't even care if we were in this dark zone that you two are talking about. Let's go," Kisa said exuberantly, releasing just some of her true self. Naruto blinked before groaning to himself. He was sure that he would get a headache from this in some way, shape, or fashion. He just knew. Well, being a medic had its perks. Speaking of, Naruto had to make a mental note to practice his medical ninjutsu. He had been feeling slightly rusty, and that was something he couldn't have. "Kisa-san, are you sure?" "I have no qualms with it, as I'm sure that Naruto-kun will treat you and your entourage with the utmost respect and hospitality. But I can't help but have my concerns," Sarutobi said while Kisa sighed. "Believe it or not, but I've had to live in those environments before. I know exactly what they are like." I see nothing wrong, and I'm certain that my guards will be able to protect both me and Tsunami. So if that's all, I will go and tell the rest the news. We'll meet you at the entrance in a few minutes, Kisa said as Naruto and Sakura watched her leave. Naruto-kun, I can't thank you enough for what you are doing, Sarutobi said while Naruto snorted. It is not an issue. I will be on my way. Come, Sakura, Naruto said, and Hiruzen noticed how Sakura easily, effectively, and yet joyfully fell into step behind the young Uzumaki as they made their way out of the room, leaving Hiruzen alone. So what do you think? He asked while a figure appeared from behind the window, opened it, and climbed inside. The figure had long, spiky, white hair tied into a ponytail that went past his waist with two bangs hanging off the side of his face. He also had red lines that ran down from his eyes and wore a horned forehead protector with the kanji 4 oil. He wore a green short shirt kimono and matching pants, under which he wore mesh armor that showed out of the sleeves and legs of his outfit. His outfit was completed with handguards, a simple black belt, wooden sandals, red haori with 2 simple yellow circles on each side, and a scroll on his back. On the right of his hand was his fate seal. Directly on it was a line crossing through the seal and another one forming a band around his lower wrist similar to one of Orochimaru's, signifying that the figure, now male identified, had 2 partners. I think I like the bathhouses in Konoha the best. Also, Kisa-san isn't bad either. Any man's gonna be lucky to have her, Kame perverted, giggling while Sarutobi groaned to himself. Some people never changed. Jiraiya, I would like it if you did not mess with Exodus by spying on Kisa-san. You know the ramifications of what they will do if that happens. So, control yourself. Especially around those like her. I'd rather not mess with Konoha's funding if you know what I mean, Sarutobi said while figure snorted. You're no fun, sensei. Well, a little danger is always good every now and then, the person replied while Hiruzen cleared his throat firmly. So what do you think of Naruto-kun? Sarutobi asked specifically. The figure's eyes narrowed and he folded his arms while he went into serious mode. It's going to be complicated, Sarutobi-sensei. I don't know what's happened to him, but something is wrong. He stared at me. I mean, I was a good few meters from the tower, and yet he stared at me like I was the only thing of notice to him. We actually had a staring contest for like 5 minutes before he broke it off. The stance he held was so loose yet dangerous that I was sure he could take about 2 Chunin down if one even so much as raised a kunai to his face. Not to mention those reserves that he has. They are amazing. I've never seen anything like it. Sure, I knew that he would get a lot from the Kyuubi and even more from his Uzumaki heritage, but those coils. They shouldn't have grown that much. I might have to take a look at the seal, he said. This man was Jiraiya, Toad Sage of MT Mayaboku, and another of the 3 Sannin from Konoha. Also, he was the widely known author of the Ika series. That is if he will even let you look at the seal. Sorry, Jiraiya, but you obviously don't know Naruto-kun as well as you think you do. I also doubt he would even let you get that close to him, Sarutobi said while Jiraiya snorted. Please, not like the brat could stop me. I could just tie him up and then check the seal for anything, Jiraiya said, and Hiruzen shivered remembering the last time Naruto had been tied up. It wasn't good. Jiraiya, don't do it! Sarutobi exclaimed, and the Gamma Sannin looked down as Sarutobi balled his fists. Just, don't do it, Sarutobi said, breathing calmly, making Jiraiya narrow his eyes, but he slowly nodded, seeing as how he couldn't do much else. So, how should I approach the kid? Jiraiya asked. He hadn't seen Naruto ever since he got adopted by his foster parents, and he'd frantically searched for him when Konoha had learned that the blonde disappeared, but those searches came up to nothing. As respectfully and calmly as possible. I don't have to tell you why I strongly recommend Naruto-kun to, at least, witness the Jonin exams. He's already Chunin just control of his chakra alone. However, I also have to tell you, Jiraiya. He's more versatile than you are, Sarutobi said, and Jiraiya raised an eyebrow. And what, pray tell, does that mean? Jiraiya asked, and Hiruzen sighed. He's capable of using every area of the shinobi arts, Sarutobi said, and if the look on Jiraiya's face was anything to go by, then the shock must have inwardly stopped his heart from beating. Genjutsu? Jiraiya asked, and Sarutobi nodded. Medical ninjutsu? Jiraiya then asked, and Sarutobi nodded. Jiraiya asked about torture and interrogation, mind reading, taijutsu, ninjutsu, fuinjutsu, and many other aspects, and Sarutobi just nodded to them all while Jiraiya bit his lower lip. I need to go, sensei, Jiraiya said, hopping to the window ledge. Oh, and one last piece of information. He fought with Orochimaru in the forest and managed to partner with Anko Mitarashi, Sarutobi said, and Jiraiya stopped. Wait, what? Seriously? That girl was known to be the only person who hated to have a partner. She refused everyone, no matter the gender. What makes Naruto so different? Jiraiya asked, suddenly forgetting Orochimaru for a moment, while Hiruzen shrugged his shoulders. I don't know, but I do know that Team 7's dynamics are going to have to change now, he said, and Jiraiya grumbled to himself, something about lucky brats and the world not being fair. He then sighed before nodding. Are you sure that it was good to allow the Gaki to protect them? You do know that, serious or not, he still tends to draw danger to himself. It's something I have seen, Jiraiya said as he disappeared in a swirl of leaves, leaving Sarutobi alone in the room. He hadn't responded to Jiraiya's question before he ultimately sighed and shook his head. I really need to pass this hat, Sarutobi said to himself before he went back to writing some paperwork that he needed to fill out. With Naruto. Naruto and Sakura exited the Hokage mansion, and Naruto's eyes darted to the right for a second. He watched a figure rush off across the rooftops before deciding not to pay it any more mind. Who is that, Naruto-kun? Sakura asked. Naruto didn't have to turn around to know that Sakura had been looking in the same direction that he was. It was something that silently pleased him. Her sensing had truly gotten better if she could sense a Sannin, but he was also sure that the man wasn't truly trying to hide. Jiraiya of the Sannin. The second member of the team the Hokage-sama taught. Either he's here for his monthly report of his spy network, or it's because of Orochimaru, Naruto answered, and Sakura slowly nodded. I don't understand though. If Orochimaru, an S-rank criminal, is here, then why aren't they closing the Chunin exams to deal with him? Sakura asked, and Naruto then proceeded to lean against the wall and close his eyes. He didn't speak straight away, which almost prompted Sakura to ask the question again, but he opened his mouth just a tad faster than her. It's because Konoha can't be seen as weak. If they let it be known that their security was weak enough to let an S-rank criminal in here, then it would invite other enemies to try and do the same. Remember that we are not on the nicest of terms with IWA. We merely have an understanding at the moment. That is one of the reasons why IWA could come to this Chunin exam. We can only bide our time. To say, if Danzo-san and myself were closed off against Orochimaru, then we could handle him. While not easily, but we would at least have a better time than Hokage-sama would if he was alone, Naruto said, and Sakura blinked. Danzo, Shimura Danzo. The council member? How do you know him, Naruto-kun? Sakura asked, and Naruto leaned his head back. We are acquainted to some sorts. That is all, Naruto remarked. Sakura just nodded to him before shrugging her shoulders. So, what are you going to teach me for the Chunin exams? Sakura asked, and Naruto finally steeled himself and dropped his arms to his sides. Nothing, he responded. Sakura widened her eyes in shock. Nothing? He was going to teach her nothing? But she had to train. She had to get better. There was no one better to teach her than Naruto. What was she supposed to do if he didn't train her? Sakura wanted to scream or shout out her question of why he wouldn't, but took a deep breath and forcibly calmed herself down. She had to remain calm. Maybe there was a good explanation for this, and screaming at her teacher was not the way to go about it. She was taught better than that. Why not? Sakura asked, getting her feeling under control. Naruto turned to glance at her and noticed her just looking at him, firmly waiting for her answer, if she even got one. Naruto stood up from where he was leaning and stand right in front of her with unnerved eyes. The two genin stared at each other for a little while, and Sakura fought hard to keep the blush of her face from the close contact. His eyes just seemed to pierce directly through her soul, unearthing everything about her, yet Sakura couldn't even find one piece of information about him at this moment. This is merely because it will be your time to surprise me, Naruto replied, and Sakura forgot about the close contact a little to repeat what he had said in her mind. She rolled it through her head for a little bit before speaking. Huh! Was the pink-haired Kunoichi's intelligent response. Naruto shook his head at her response and decided to elaborate. You have surprised Hatake. You have surprised Sasuke, and now you have surprised yourself. Sakura, there is nothing that you have learned currently that I wouldn't be surprised by. I'm sure that you think I would be surprised by your use of cat-on techniques that you got from Sasuke while you faced Orochimaru in the forest, but I knew about that a little later, so it doesn't surprise me. I can't expect to see the growth that you will make if I'm always watching you. I want to see how you will do if I've ever not around. That is all. I want to see what you're capable of without my help, Naruto said, and Sakura blinked in realization. Her heart only lifted slightly at the amount of trust he had in her ability. But who was she supposed to find a teacher this late into the Chunin exams? She couldn't go to Kakashi because that would just be the same thing as with Naruto. No real change there. Anko, maybe? It was a possibility. Who else could she get to help her out? She wasn't sure. She'd have to do some looking around, but if that was her true sensei's reason, then she wouldn't argue against it. I understand, Naruto-sensei, Sakura said dejectedly. Naruto took a glance at her fallen mood before he sighed and patted her on top of the head. Raise your head, Sakura. This is not how a proud kunoichi I have trained acts. This isn't a permanent thing. If you do well in the exams, then I will give you a surprise, Naruto said, letting that hang, and Sakura's eyes widened even further. Her throat felt dry for a second before she nodded, still silent. She then perked up and tried her best smile, though she wasn't sure how it looked to Naruto's eyes. But he seemed satisfied. Well, what do we have here? It seems that the Chunin exams aren't the only things starting to surface. Naruto heard the sound of a very familiar voice and his eyebrow twitched before he resisted the urge to sigh to himself. Sakura looked over Naruto's shoulder and was surprised to see such a group of people. Naruto and I. Naruto also heard another familiar sound and shook his head. He took his hand from Sakura's head and turned around to see the group from Exodus that he was supposed to escort. Every single face was familiar to him, and his eyes softened. Amaru, Temujin, Kamira, Renka, Gozu, Meizu, who had arrived late last night, Tsunami, Inari, and Zabuza, the man looking only slightly irritated as usual. Once Naruto's eyes came into contact with everyone else's, Kisa heard a small collection of gasps from the others. Renka was sporting a warm smile while her eyes gazed over the blonde's form. She couldn't resist the small chuckle that escaped her lips, showing the happy mood that she was in. Kamira managed to stare evenly at Naruto, but Kisa could see that she was frozen, if not giving a slight tremble every now and then. She sucked in her breath and exhaled. She gave just a small smile that didn't quite match Renka's, but the feeling was there. Temujin and Amaru were about the same, except Amaru had to keep herself from nearly bursting into tears and rushing to capture her friend/boss in tight hug, forcing lots of explanations to come from anyone who was watching, so she just settled for biting her lower lip and constantly wiping a side of her cheek with her hand. Meanwhile, Temujin was glaring at Naruto with devotion. He stood proudly and firmly, just as the day that he had seen him last. Truly no person, maybe Kisa, had earned so much of Temujin's respect as Naruto had. Of course, there were no other orders he could follow except from those that Naruto gave him, which were to specifically follow Kisa's orders while he was gone. Gozu and Meizu just grinned while standing proudly with the group. Neither did anything, having already had their fill of Naruto's appearance back in Wave. They had let their joy out then, but it was still refreshing to see that form. Zabuza looked more annoyed than anything else, but one could see a bare smile from behind his bandages. His knuckles tightened as he balled them before finally sighing. He still couldn't wrap his head around it that the person in control of both Kuni, several other small villages and countries, and became the largest shipping magnate in the elemental countries, yet so few people knew it. How could he pull it off so well? It is good to see you again, Tsunami-san. How has your job treated you? Naruto asked, and everyone, with the exception of Zabuza, grinned and turned to the young mother. Tsunami gave a gentle smile and cleared her throat. It has been a struggle to remember some things, but I have handled my responsibilities well. Our president put so much faith in me that I would hate to disappoint him with my actions, Tsunami replied. Naruto just nodded more to himself than to the statement, but did do so all the same. I see, was his response. Okay, can we please go to wherever we have to go? I'm hungry. Haven't gotten a decent meal in that mansion the entire time we were there, Chimera called while stretching her arms and legs. They had gotten stiff on the couch one night. When Kisa told their group where they would be staying, everyone jumped at the chance, some more than others, but could anyone really blame them? They didn't think so. I would like to get settled as well. We can't tell you how much we appreciate your hospitality, Naruto-kun. I'll help you with the cooking if you don't mind. I'd also like for you to show me that recipe for colds that you came up with, especially when Kakashi-san was running a fever, Tsunami said, and Naruto spun on his heel. It would be appropriate if you did have that knowledge, I suppose. It is all on your decision. We will discuss that later. For now, please follow me, the blonde genin said, and everyone nodded as they walked behind Naruto and Sakura. The walk through Konoha was kind of uneventful as the group had taken the time to look around a day prior to this one. Oh sure, there was the not-so-unusual gasp of surprise from some civilians and shinobi at the entourage of Exodus Metals people, but most were confused that they were traveling with the container for the Kyuubi, not like anyone said anything about it. Even civilians were smart enough to keep their mouths shut when influential people were around. So tell me, Kisa-san, what will Exodus do now that it has regained control over Wave? Came the sudden question from Sakura Haruno. Naruto didn't seem to mind the question nor make any distinct impression that he had heard it as he just settled for walking in his continued stride. Well, we plan to branch ourselves to a large island a bit to the east of Wave's locations. Over there is where we will build another establishment. It's deserted, so there is no hassle with trying to claim it for our own. We hope to move some people from Wave there and work the mines there. It might become a small country at first until it gets on its feet, but this is all up in the air at the moment. We will also need a manager over there as well. It's too many things to think about right now, Kisa said, and Tsunami seemed surprised at that news as well, and Kisa noticed that shock well. I was planning to go over it with you during our stay here in Konoha, Tsunami. Since you know Wave the best, then I will need your help in convincing some of the people to find work there, Kisa requested. Tsunami nodded with a small smile. Well, we are still relatively poor for the moment. Exodus has been pouring a certain amount of money into repairing homes, building other establishments. I will do what I can, but I'm sure there will be no arguments. After all, most of us don't have jobs and the men are knowledgeable in construction, so I think we can make a simple building to monitor the mines if we find any, Tsunami said before they heard a semi-loud groan. Man, we came here to get away from all that boring talk. Can't you two stop talking about work for 2 seconds? Came Chimera's voice before Kisa smiled and grabbed the young girl's head tightly. I'm sorry, that sounded like the sound of someone who wasn't still on punishment for her latest spectacle. Since when did you grow the nerve to talk back to me? Kisa asked sweetly while her grip on Chimera's head tightened. Her smile widened, but the danger in her eyes was obvious to everyone. Ranka shook her head and brushed a hand through her long, blonde hair while Zabuza pinched the bridge of his nose. Sakura's sweat dropped while Amaru and Temujin snickered. I was just joking, Kisa-sama. It won't happen again, Chimera said, hoping to get out of the grip that was a good 6 or 7 seconds from turning her brain to mush. She then felt relief when Kisa stopped and smiled. Just so you understand, that is all, Kisa said, and the group continued to walk. Inari looked off through the village with a look befitting a child. He marveled at everything he laid his eyes on. Konoha had so many tall buildings and shops. People were bustling in the streets happily. It seemed like such a change of pace from Wave, as there wasn't a fresh smell of seawater whenever he woke up in his bed. It was a welcome change for the young lad. Suddenly Naruto stopped, and like clockwork everyone else did the same. Please excuse me for a moment, Naruto said with a bow before he disappeared into a store. Everyone looked at the sign or title, and from the look of it this seemed to be one of the local bookstores. A bookstore? Tsunami asked with a tilted head while Sakura smiled. Hi, Naruto-sensei loves to read. He'll read just about anything. He even reads this orange book that Kakashi-sensei likes to read called Ika Ika. I've read a couple of the pages myself, and while it isn't very traditional, it's still a good book, though the lack of a stable plot is concerning, Sakura said, and she noticed Amaru's face quickly turned beet red while she looked down at the ground. Tsunami sighed to herself and shook her head while Chimera and Kisa shared a laugh. Ranka's cheek held a tint pink, and the lecherous grin on her face suddenly became obvious. Oh yes, Ranka was an avid reader of Ika, and while she looked at it with a different viewpoint, probably from someone like Naruto, she still loved it nonetheless. She actually had her copy somewhere on her person, though she kept it well hidden. What's an Ika? Is it good? No one could stop the shifts of giggles, not even Zabuza, while Tsunami paled as she looked down at Inari's confused, innocent face. Ah, Inari, we'll take about that when you are older. Just forget about those things for now, Tsunami insisted, and Inari pouted. He didn't know what this Ika was, but he'd find out eventually. He just had to bide his time. Tsunami, you're going to have that talk with him eventually, Kisa said while Tsunami pouted. It's not funny, Kisa-san. Inari is not old enough for such things, and I would appreciate it if we all dropped the current subject, Tsunami, once again, insisted, which the others listened. Amaru still had the blush on her face, but it settled down somewhat. If Naruto-san wanted to think about erotic stuff, then he could have just asked me, Chimera said, looking off into the distance. Ranka proceeded to lightly bash the younger woman over the head with a sigh. Tact, Chimera. Learn some more tact, Ranka advised while Chimera rubbed her head and glared at her partner's direction. Soon all talking died down when Naruto returned with a bag full of new books. New releases had just hit the stores and he had to get his own before they ran out. As he looked at the group of people and Sakura, he couldn't help but feel that something absurd had gone down, and it just had to deal with him in some way. Everyone was just looking at him strangely. It's like they were just expecting him to do something right in front of them all. He turned his steely gaze in Amaru's direction, and he noted that she tried to avoid eye contact with him, the blush still on her face. Not to mention the fact that Chimera and Ranko were looking at him feverishly. Let's be on our way then, Naruto spoke, breaking the tension in the air with his knife-like voice. Everyone just nodded and continued to walk off. It took some time and much conversation, but the group then left some of the more residential districts and finally came into the red light district. Naruto advised them all to just forget the things that they saw and try not to pay it too much mind. Everyone listened to his advice, except for Ranka. Her eyes held stars as she held her hands together tightly. Oh yeah, the blonde woman seemed to have a strong love for gambling. She wasn't particularly good at it, but she was the worst person out there. We are here, Ranka snapped from her thoughts of what she would be doing and turned her attention forward. The blonde, young woman gasped. It was a very beautiful structure. Easily made to fit dozens of people, the possibility of a number of rooms were endless. Amaru blinked at the structure while Temujin raised an eyebrow. Sakura gasped and nearly dropped her jaw. Her sensei lived in a place like this? Well damn, she'd blow up her own house too if it meant that she could live in there. It's nice, Naruto-san, Tsunami said, and Naruto merely took the comment with an exchanged bow of his head. Thank you for your kind words, Tsunami-san, Naruto said as he opened the door, and everyone marveled at the maple wooden floors. They seemed to shine in the sun that illuminated from the open door. Please take off your shoes, Naruto said as he took his off and stepped into his house. It had definitely been a while that he had been here last, but he could see that Sai and Misa had indeed moved all his things into his house, and he assumed that the other root Umbus set his things appropriately. Everyone took off their shoes and lined them up near the door and stepped inside. Whoa, it feels even bigger when you're inside, Chimera said, and no one refuted her opinion. Naruto stopped in the halls and turned around to face his audience. To the left of the kitchen are the bedrooms. To the back of the house is a training ground if you feel the need for light sparring or training. Kisa-san and Tsunami-san may have their own rooms, and so may everyone else. If you choose to sleep together with someone else, then I will find no fault in your decision to do so. I will prepare breakfast and dinner, lunch if I am in the house at the time. Each set of 5 bedrooms has 1 bathroom with shower, tub and anything else that you might need. Now then, a few rules, Naruto said firmly and with an edge in his voice. Sakura, Zabuza, Tsunami, and Inari noticed the others tighten and stand like they were being spoken to by their commander, which essentially they were. Each of their stances was rigid and firm, but soft and flexible. It was like they would kill at a moment's notice if Naruto gave the word. The look of playfulness in their eyes was long gone as they stood up straight. Inwardly, Naruto nodded with what he saw. It seemed that he didn't have to remind anyone who was the one in charge here. Everyone seemed to still be able to put aside anything to listen to him, and that was what he wanted right now. Nodding inwardly, Naruto placed his hand on one of the walls and frowned deeply. Illicit actions or activities inside this house will not be tolerated. If you're foolish enough to test me and I catch you, then I will make sure you learn your place while you stay in this house, he spoke firmly. Sakura, Tsunami, Zabuza, and Inari watched as the others nodded their heads up and down quickly in agreement. Naruto's eyes then proceeded to soften, but they never lost their semi-even look. Now that we are all in agreement, then you may make yourselves comfortable. Pick your rooms and I will begin dinner later, Naruto said, and everyone started to walk off while Sakura tapped Naruto on the shoulder, prompting the young blonde to look back. I'm not going to stay, Naruto-kun. I'm going to put some thought into a teacher. I'll see you later, Sakura said, and Naruto just nodded as the pink-haired Kunoichi placed her sandals back on and exited the building with a wave goodbye. Naruto watched her leave and all was silent. Naruto-sama. Okay, maybe not as quiet as he would have liked. Naruto felt a body crash into him while arms wrapped around his body. He narrowed his eyes before looking back, and they softened when he noticed Amaru holding him tightly. He gave a gentle glare before closing his eyes. You have gotten taller, Amaru, Naruto commented, and he watched the tears drop down Amaru's face. It's been so long since I last saw you. I missed you so much, Amaru exclaimed. Naruto raised an eyebrow before he noticed the others beginning to gather around. Naruto-sama, it is great to be of service to you once again, Temujin said as he bowed on one knee. Naruto frowned before he was enveloped in many more hugs, courtesy of Ranka and Chimera. This was uncomfortable. It's been a while, Naruto-sama. You've gotten so much taller and stronger, I bet, Ranka said while Naruto sighed and looked up at the ceiling. It is great that you have all been well, but I have to ask for you all to let me go. As glad as I am to see you all, we have things to discuss and not much time to do them in, Naruto said, but he noticed that no one moved. Naruto, we haven't seen you in a number of years. Business affairs can wait till a later time. Just let them have these few minutes. Naruto turned and saw Kisa smiling warmly at him. He looked at her for a little bit before he looked over the people invading his personal space. Ranka had a small smile on her face, happily and content, while Chimera had the largest. Temujin just smiled as he leaned against the wall, but the youngest, Amaru, was silently sniffling as she took in Naruto's warmth. The young blonde closed his eyes and ultimately sighed once again for the umpteenth time. He just nodded. They earned this, so he wouldn't keep them from it if they truly desired it. He wouldn't say it, but he did miss them as well. Off in the corner, Tsunami and Inari gave wide smiles while Zabuza just snorted and looked off at something else. So the brat wasn't as bad as he thought. Hotel room. No, Samui, I've just been concerned about you lately. You've been distracted. You've been gone for long amounts of time and you're now looking off into space. What's up with you? Karui asked, folding her arms while Samui brushed a hand through her hair. Almost seemed to be looking at her intently, as did their sensei, a dark-skinned, white-haired man. He had a lazy look in his eye as the other was covered by his hair, making him bear a small resemblance to Konoha's copy shinobi, Kakashi Hatake. Karui cooled down. Nothing is wrong with me. I have been fine. I have just been thinking about some things that have been on my mind. We made it to the finals, so we don't have the luxury of wasting our time. We should be training, not bickering amongst ourselves, Samui explained. Karui frowned while their sensei sighed. It's that other blonde, isn't it, Samui? Naruto Uzumaki, I believe. You have sent several glances to him that I'm sure were a little involuntary while you were in the tower. Is that why you've been so adamant to bring Atsui here? He asked, and Samui remained silent. Naruto Uzumaki, I heard he went toe-to-toe with Zabuza Momochi and even managed to save an entire country single-handedly. How is that guy still a genin? We're dead if either of us fight him, Oma said with a pale face before Karui bopped him over the head. Shut up, idiot. Even someone like him can die, Kirui said with a smirk, and their sensei turned and noticed the color nearly drain from Samui's face while her eyes expressed genuine worry. Well, the subject of Uzumaki Naruto aside, I still have to prepare you three, so we'll start our work immediately. Kirui, Omo, I will be teaching you both more kenjutsu as well as the kenjutsu that B-sama instructed you to use. Now Samui, Reikage-sama believes that now is the time for you to learn like a select few others about a particular style of jutsu. I'm sure you already know that this Kekai Genkai is common in Kumo and not limited to people of one bloodline. We'll start that tomorrow. For now you three can rest. Reikage-sama and his group will be coming here in 2 weeks, so we must get you up in that time. It'll be dull, but we'll try our best, he said, and they nodded. Hi, Darui-sensei, they said, and the man named Darui nodded with a small smile on his face as he did so. And Samui, do what your heart tells you. You and Atsui aren't originally from Kumo, so a process is very simple, Darui said, and Samui looked down at the ground. Luckily either Kirui nor Omo heard them as they walked off just before Darui spoke. Hi, Darui-sensei. Arigato, Samui said before spinning on her heel and walking off while Darui rubbed the back of his head and let out a tired sigh. Why did it always have to be blondes that were the most trouble? It also just had to be the one from Konoha, didn't it? Darui shook his head as he watched Samui leave. He truly hoped the young blonde female knew what she was doing. He was also worried for her brother, Atsui. Darui didn't know what kind of influence Uzumaki Naruto had on them both, but it was obviously a very strong hold. Not a manipulative one, as Darui didn't get that vibe from him, but they had some kind of history. Those three blondes. Hospital. Hayashi and his daughter, Hanabi, stood together as they looked at the hospital room. We are sorry, Hayashi-sama, but until we can determine the cause of Hinata-san's illness, then I am afraid that she is not permitted to be seen. It took us all 2 nights ago to get her to stop screaming in pain. I do not know what happened to her, but it seems that right now we need to find a cure after the diagnosis, a doctor said while Hayashi frowned. He just slowly nodded while Hanabi tightened her dress. Is Hinata-onsama going to die? She asked, and Hayashi sighed. No, Hanabi, the doctors are doing all that they can, I'm sure. We'll just have to be patient. Let's go home, Hayashi said, and Hanabi nodded as they walked away from the area. Neither one of them noticed the grin on someone's face from around the corner before he disappeared without a trace of his existence. Root Division Room. And that is what I request from you. I am sure that this is unfair to you, but if there is anyone else who has the capabilities to do it, then that would be you, Naruto said as he watched the young Root Umbu Force train. He stood right next to Danzo Shimura while the aged war hawk closed his visible eye. You seem to have so much faith. I had seen her abilities within the academy. It was an atrocious thing to say the least. If you were not vouching for her, then I would consider her a waste of my time. Until I heard from Misa inside that she actually stood up to Uchiha Sasuke, I never paid the Haruno girl much mind. However, it is assuring that she had gained some of the skills of Uchiha Sasuke. She'll prove to be a valuable asset in the future, Danzo said while Naruto narrowed his eyes. No emotion conditioning. One of the best things about Sakura is her uncanny ability to use her emotions to judge the mood of a battle and counteract accordingly. That is what makes her very dangerous for anyone. However, speaking of your training methods, why didn't you fully do this for Sai or Misa? Naruto asked, and Danzo kept his face even while his staff tightened. Naruto, do you know why I do not wish to become the Hokage anymore? Danzo asked, and Naruto slowly narrowed his eyes. He fathomed his best guess, but didn't say anything, and Danzo didn't expect him to. It's because I see now that I do not have the charisma that comes with the job, nor do I have weakness to take it. Root is something that I have brought under my control. Most of the Umbu here weren't brought willingly. Only a select few were, and it wasn't because of how I said things that did it. No, it was merely manipulation. I have done many things that I am not proud of, and I have to live with them every day. Hiruzen Sarutobi is one who can stand in the light of the shinobi world. I am the one who can only stand in the dark. I see myself merely as the curtain drawer for the main events to take place. The Hokage position is merely a title. A title that forces you to put aside your beliefs and your ideals for the sake of an ungrateful village, who will probably never understand the true meaning of the word's sacrifice. Not just Konoha, but I have seen all villages are like this in some way or fashion. Sai and Misa are here willingly, and it's not that I didn't try to do it to Misa, but despite her nature, it never fully worked because she is uncaringly pessimistic by nature given the life she has lived prior to this. She only fights because I tell her to. If I didn't, she would merely watch the world go by. That is why I never finished with Sai, because I know that Sai has always never understood why others possess emotions and he's confused by them. It's not that I don't condone that, but I do feel it gets in the way of a shinobi's duty. Misa told me what you said during the first portion of the Chunin exams. You are very correct. Shinobi must bear their responsibilities and I shall bear mine when that time comes, Danzo said, and Naruto was silent. He looked out at the root members training and lowered his eyes. You truly are a man worthy of note, Danzo-san. I used to think things like that as well. However, I find myself slowly drifting towards the light. I can't say that I accept what happens, but I don't try to stop it. If you wish to live in the light, then you must make the choice to. It is merely that simple. I must go now, Naruto said as he began to walk away. Danzo's eyes never left his root division as a frown marred his features. Uzumaki, Danzo's voice called and Naruto stopped walking, but he didn't turn around as Danzo spoke. There is also someone besides Orochimaru here. Sai and Misa picked up on the chakra signature while they were in the forest. Whoever, or whatever, it was that attacked Team 8 and put them in the hospital in severe conditions. I would advise that you be on your guard if you are ever by yourself. I do not need something to happen to Konoha's funding, Danzo spoke sternly. Naruto snorted in response and spoke. I'll be sure to keep that in mind. However, I have a council meeting that requires my attention. I will see you soon, Naruto said before removing himself from Danzo's presence. Meanwhile, Danzo sent a light frown while his grip tightened on his cane. Removing himself from the base, Naruto shot off through the trees, the moonlight illuminating his presence as he did so. It didn't take long for him to enter back into the village as his eyes suddenly darted to the left. As he ran, he noticed two Umbu at his sides. They each bore their eyes at him, and Naruto frowned. Uzumaki Naruto, your presence is required by Hokage-sama and the council. We are to escort you, the lead Umbu said, and him and Naruto slowly nodded. Very well. Take me to them, he replied, and the three shot off for the Hokage mansion. Nothing slowed their pace down as they did so. They entered through the side entrances and walked up the stairs. Each of the Umbu took a door and then pushed them open. Hokage-sama, we have brought Uzumaki-san, one of the Umbu said, and Naruto took notice that Anko was in the room as well. He lowered his gaze at her for a mere second while Anko did the same. However, her glare slowly turned into a smile as she lunged forward. How have you been, partner? Thinking about me? Anko asked with a wide grin across her face. She never noticed the semi-annoyed expression on Naruto's face. Most of that annoyance stemmed from the fact that he had been looking for his purple-haired partner, but hadn't seen her around until today, though he supposed that if she was busy then he didn't need to feel that way. Unlike him, her rank wasn't hidden, so she had to have been busy, especially with Orochimaru lurking around somewhere. As he looked past Anko and at the council, he only noticed a wide variety of emotions that didn't make him feel any different. Some had smiles on their faces, other neutral, and very few glares it would see. One of those smiles just had to come from the Hokage, which made Naruto place a book, which he had been reading, down. Anko, please let go of me, Naruto said, and if Anko hadn't been used to this personality already, then she would have tried to smack the blonde over the head. Stingy, she pouted, but acquiesced to his request and stepped behind him. She didn't know why she was called here, but if it had something to do with Naruto, then she didn't really mind it that much. Naruto didn't offer her a response as he folded his arms in front of the council. Is there a reason that I have been summoned, Hokage-sama? Naruto asked with a tone that told everyone present that he really had better things to do than what he was doing right now. He still had things to tell Kisa, and they were being put off much more than he would have liked. You would do well to watch your tone, Uzumaki-san. You are still just a genin, not matter if you finish the academy early or not, came the voice of Hamura, which Naruto easily ignored. His blue eyes never left the Hokage's form. The clan heads noticed that he didn't pay them much of a mind. No one said anything on that issue. Yes, Naruto-kun. I would like you to tell us about your team's encounter with Orochimaru, Sarutobi said, quick and to the point. Naruto raised an eyebrow and he felt Anko tighten from where she was. She bit her lower lip, while Naruto sighed. I will do so, however I would like to ask that the person behind you stop hiding. Nothing in this meeting should be hidden, for things hidden breed distrust, Naruto replied. Some of the civilian council muttered to themselves before everyone heard laughing. It echoed throughout the room before it finally became more concentrated. So the Gaki's not as bad as I thought. To actually find me out is surprising, Naruto frowned when he heard gasps in the crowd. A large source of chakra had just appeared behind him, its levels nearly the same as Orochimaru's. There were only 2 people that had that level of chakra comparable to Orochimaru, Tsunade Senju and Jiraiya. Naruto snorted, but didn't turn around. You flatter yourself too much. It's not hard to find you if you foolishly underestimate someone because they are possibly weaker than you. It's things like that that will cause you to foolishly lose your life in the end, Naruto replied. Anko snickered while Jiraiya raised an eyebrow while folding his arms. And just who would be strong enough to make me lose my life? Jiraiya asked, and Naruto shook his head, but didn't answer. Seeing that the blonde was silent, Jiraiya grinned and then patted the blonde's shoulder. Well, it's fine if you don't know, brat. Not many people can be as awesome as me, Jiraiya spoke while Naruto glared at Hiruzen. Hokage-sama, what is the purpose of this man? Naruto asked, and Sarutobi sighed. Forgive me, Naruto-kun, but try to be easy with him. Jiraiya is one of the best shinobi that we have, and I want you and him to go over the ceiling barrier for the village. We would also like for you to pick a time to inform Kakashi Hatake of your decision regarding Anko Mitarashi, Sarutobi said, and Naruto snorted. Wait. What are you talking about? Why does Kakashi have to care if I'm Naruto's partner? Anko asked while Sarutobi turned to the Jonin in question. For one, it will most likely change the team dynamics. In the course of Konoha's founding, there hasn't been a partnering such as this. Now we spoke with Mitarashi-san on the matter, and she said that she doesn't mind doing whatever so long as you're there with her, and incidentally that it happens when partners are formed. Now you could either leave Team 7 and be a separate team with Anko, or you can have Anko join your team. Which would you like? Sarutobi asked, and Naruto sighed for the umpteenth time while he turned back and noticed Anko folding her arms with a proud grin on her face. His mind raced through all the possible outcomes that thus could have, but he couldn't cover them all accurately in the time limit that he was suddenly given. I will take the matter into consideration, Naruto replied. No one said anything, and Hiruzen just nodded with his choice while Jiraiya patted Naruto on the shoulder. Well, brat. Will you think that stuff over? We've got work to do, Jiraiya said before everyone felt the room go cold. A slight crack appeared on the sides as Naruto turned his eyes back. Please do not touch me. We will keep this relationship as professional as possible. I know of your tendencies. If you seek to waste my time foolishly, then I will not work with you. I still have training for the Chunin exams. You will meet me in training ground 7 at 9 in the morning. Any later and I will begin to start on my own things. Do not test my patience, Naruto said, and he felt Jiraiya's grip tighten on his shoulder. Tsum widened her eyes, as did Chusa. Shikaku, Inoichi and Shibi had their eyebrows raised while Hayashi merely looked on sternly. Danzo didn't show any emotion, but he wondered if Naruto had some kind of history with the Gamma Sennin that made for this attitude. Oh? And what kind of threat is that, brat? You think you could hurt me? Like I'd let a wet behind there's genin touch me. However, if it's training for your little exam that you want, then as we work, then I will help you, Jiraiya said, shocking almost everyone in the room. Mabuki gawked while the clan heads narrowed their eyes. It was well known that Jiraiya never took apprentices or students. The last student that he took had been the Yondaime Hokage. Even if the council asked him to, he never took students, so this was just uncalled for. Anko snorted and folded her arms, not really caring. Hokage-sama, I would like to get this over with if you please. Now then, might I address things to the council? Naruto asked, and Sarutobi arched an eyebrow. Have you nothing to say to Jiraiya's offer? The Sandaime asked, and Naruto didn't respond. He stayed that way for over several minutes, just staring at the Hokage, answering his silent question. Hiruzen breathed out a small sigh before rubbing his temples. Alright, Naruto-kun, what did you want to tell the council? Hiruzen asked, and Naruto took a deep breath and, finishing some last-minute calculations in his head, finally spoke. I will make weapons for Konoha, Naruto said evenly. The room was silent as the civilian council dropped their jaws. The clan heads slightly widened their eyes while Koharu and Hamura seemed the most confused. Danzo offered a small smile, but the look on Hiruzen's face just screamed for an explanation. Jiraiya raised an eyebrow while Anko tilted her head to the side. Naruto merely remained silent, letting them all process this information before Hamura gave a small smile. Finally come to your senses? He asked. Strangely, there wasn't a condescending tone like Naruto might have anticipated, but he didn't show it across his face. Yes, Naruto-kun, while this is great news, I still can't help but wonder about the decision of you to change your mind. Might I ask why? Sarutobi asked, and Naruto nodded. Please do not misunderstand. I do not do this simply because you foolishly believe that you can terminate your contract with Exodus so easily, but I have been experimenting and I need test subjects of my weapons. I need to see how compatible they are in actual combat. I have also come across a certain metal that is able to enhance the chakra of the person who wields it. It's still a process, and since I can't allow a civilian to do this, then I am willing to make weapons for Konoha shinobi if they test out my creations, Naruto answered. No, Naruto wasn't a fool. He knew very well that he could test all of these himself, but there was another reason for this. A reason that had been made clear to him before he passed out on the floor of the Chunin exam tower. It had put it off for too long, and this was the price for it. Not that he truly bothered with it that much. Naruto-kun, are you sure about this? Hiruzen asked, and Naruto slowly nodded. However, I will adamantly state that I will remain a shinobi. None of this will affect my work. That is all. Anko, let's go. I have to talk to you, Naruto said, turning around, and he began walking for the door. Anko blinked before turning to Sarutobi. The elderly man gave his consent, and Anko walked off after Naruto. This left the council alone save Jiraiya. Well, sensei, he's worse than you told me. Looks like I'll have to work my illustrious charm on the brat before anything else happens, Jiraiya said while Sarutobi sighed. Just try to be normal, Jiraiya. As I have learned, Naruto-kun has a low tolerance for childishness, especially in adults. You're dismissed, Sarutobi said, and Jiraiya nodded before he disappeared into the air. Meanwhile, the council came together and spoke. Hokage-sama, you can't be serious? One of the civilians asked while Sarutobi shrugged his shoulders. Naruto-kun has shown the aptitude for it as any experienced weaponsmith that we have seen. I don't see a reason to deny him his request. I hope that you remember that Exodus doesn't take commissions from the 5 great nations, seeing as how they know that this will be seen as favoritism. If you want anything made from them, then it comes out of your own pocket, whereas with Naruto-kun we can all remember the shuriken that he made. We were all captivated by it. I will consider his request, Sarutobi said, and he was ready to dismiss the issue before Danzo spoke up. However, Hiruzen, I would advise you to also find a testing area for Uzumaki's weapons. Like you, I see the genuine potential in his weapon-making skills as well as the few ninjutsu applications that he's made to the weapon. We will be stronger if we have them, Danzo said, and Sarutobi quickly nodded in agreement. He then dismissed the group of people as Danzo stood to his feet and walked over to someone before they could leave. Haruno-san, Danzo spoke, and Mabuki turned her head. As Shimura-san, how might I help you? Mabuki Haruno asked in a sort of muted tone that wasn't truly befitting of what most thought about her. Danzo's lips furled up into a small smile before he conversed with the Haruno woman. With Naruto. Naruto and Anko walked out of the Hokage mansion and entered into the streets. Neither said anything for a little bit, finding the situation just a little awkward. Well, at least that was how Anko felt. That particular memory of what happened before Orochimaru left burned into her brain. Anko frowned as she gazed down at her partner, who had now his book in his hands, while the two walked in silence. Naruto seemed so interested in his book while Anko found the sights interesting at the moment. I had tried to find you back at the tower, Anko, Anko broke out of her stupor and turned back to see Naruto glaring at her, his eyes as piercing and uncomfortable as the other days that she had known him. Anko responded by rubbing the back of her head sheepishly. "Oh, were you? Sorry, Gaki, couldn't tell you what happened. After meeting with Hokage-sama about our encounter with Orochimaru, I went to put myself through hellish training to get some damn control after the chakra increase you gave me. I could barely climb a damn tree or water walk." Anko protested, but Naruto hardly looked affected. "I see," Naruto said, and Anko nodded slowly. "So, what did you want to talk about?" Anko asked, and Naruto proceeded to look at the ground. He closed his eyes for a few seconds and sighed. He looked at Anko and Anko looked back. Neither said anything for a little bit, and if there was one thing that unnerved Anko more than Orochimaru, then it was silence. Naruto just stared at her for a little bit before looking back down at the ground once again. For once, Naruto was at a loss for words. "So how long are we going to stand here with these assholes watching us?" Anko asked, and Naruto didn't seem to care that they were being looked at. He just snorted before shaking his head and holding his head up high. "I will not sugarcoat it with you, Anko. I had not planned to partner with you then, if ever," Naruto said, and Anko instantly narrowed her eyes. She was ready to fire back an instant jab at him before Naruto held his hand up asking for her continued silence. Through some force, she managed to calm down and brought herself under control. "It is not that I thought less of you. That was thoughtless on my part. I have bonded to you and I am not used to these things that suddenly take shape here. What I'm saying is that no matter how smart I try to become, I will never know everything there is to know about everything. I will need to understand you," and Naruto suddenly stopped when he saw Anko's arm wrap around his neck. "Hey, now don't get all sentimental on me, brat. We're gonna be fucking awesome. I'll help you with anything you need done. What's a partner for, right?" Anko asked, and Naruto just snorted, but slowly nodded. "However, that thing you said before about making weapons for Konoha. Were you serious?" Anko asked, and she watched Naruto frown. "Have I ever shown myself to not be serious?" Naruto asked, and Anko rolled her eyes before shaking her head. "We're really going to have to work on your attitude, brat. But who's going to train you if you don't have a teacher? Sorry if I think that turning down training from Jiraiya of the Sannin was a stupid move," Anko said, but that was just her opinion on the matter. "There are multiple reasons of why I do not wish to be associated with him just yet, or have his teaching. For one thing, I am sure that he would want to rework the seals on my body, provided that I actually let him get that close to me. Someone like him wouldn't be able to figure out how these seals work, and that wouldn't do good for me if he went triggering them," Naruto said, and Anko chuckled. "You make it sound like you've got hundreds of seals across your body," Anko said humorlessly. Naruto didn't respond to her statement, but just continued to walk away. Anko watched him leave before she paled when he didn't respond to her. There was no way he actually had that many seals on his body. Even the human body could only take so many seals, and anything over give or take 8 or 7 was like detrimental to the body. "You don't really have that many, do you?" she asked somewhat worriedly, and Naruto glanced back to her. His eyes lowered slightly before he looked back to his book. "Who knows?" Naruto responded, and Anko gawked before she pinched the bridge of her nose. "Can you not be reckless? I just got a somewhat reliable partner, and I'd rather not lose you that easily," Anko retorted, and Naruto stopped. "Why?" he asked, and Anko blinked. "Why? Well, fuck, brat, I don't know. Do you know what would happen to my reputation if I got a partner, and then immediately lost him?" Anko asked, and Naruto raised an eyebrow. "I was under the impression that you could have cared less about what people thought if you," Naruto responded, and Anko snorted. "Hey, they can all suck it for all I care. But I don't need to be having that hanging over my head along with other things. Just promise me you won't die," Anko said, and Naruto frowned. "I will die someday, Anko. This is an undeniable truth for everyone," Naruto said, and Anko grew silent. She held her head down and sighed. Naruto watched this reaction for a little bit, and through their bond, he could feel that she was angry, upset, and slightly sad, but he was surprised that she didn't just simply voice it. "However, I would like to think that such a time is still far off for myself. So until that time, I will not attempt to die," Naruto said once again. Anko held her head up and stared into his eyes. She saw the absolute conviction to stay alive in his eyes, though for most it would have been hard to tell with his eyes as stoic as they usually were. I guess that's all I can hope for, huh? Anko asked, and Naruto nodded affirmatively. Fine then. When you summon me, then there had better be action, damn it. I am not being summoned for D-rank missions. So help me, if you summon me for a D-rank mission, then I will castrate you and hang you from the ceiling by your balls. Anko grinned dangerously while Naruto tilted his head to the side. You are hardly in a position where you can seek to threaten me, Anko. I doubt I would need to summon you for such trivial things. However, it is only fair to warn that the same rules apply to me as well. I'm sure that you understand, but I do not like my time being wasted, Naruto countered, and Anko's eyebrow twitched. Yeah, sure, brat. When I summon you, we're going to be right in the heat of it all, where the shit's about to go down. We're gonna have a fun time together, Anko said, and Naruto just shook his head slowly before sighing. Good night, Anko. I will see you tomorrow or so, Naruto said before he disappeared out of her view. Anko watched him disappear before she discreetly placed a hand to her chest and sighed. Damn it, I thought this shit would stop if I partnered with. It only got worse. I'm gonna kill you, Naruto, for making me like this, Anko thought to herself before she trudged home, gripping her chest lightly as she did. With Sakura. Sakura hummed to herself as she combed her hair in her room. The young pink-haired kunoichi had moved back into her parents' house just a few hours ago. Her search for a teacher had come up blank. It seemed that shinobi were too busy to offer her the time of day. The fact that she wasn't from, say, a renowned clan was also something holding her back. Sakura thought about maybe genjutsu and sought out Kurenai Yuhi, but the woman was nowhere to be found. She then thought taijutsu, which she, begrudgingly, went to find Guy, but he was training his own team. Asuma was a no-show, big surprise, and Kakashi wasn't anywhere to be found either. It all infuriated Sakura to almost no end. How was she supposed to surprise her real teacher if she couldn't even get a temporary teacher? Sakura had initially thought about creating her own techniques, as she felt she had always done well when it came to complications like jutsu theory, but she doubted she could create something on her own in a given month. Maybe she could and maybe she couldn't. Sakura never liked making bets, as Naruto wisely advised her against such foolish acts, but she wondered if he took bets from time to time. Sakura panned out her entire body over her bed and heaved a sigh. Mao, Naruto-sensei, why did you have to give me such an assignment? It seems like everyone is too busy to worry about me, Sakura said to herself, suddenly feeling just a little self-conscious. Maybe it was because of how she acted in the academy. People saw how she acted and felt she would already be dead in her early years or so they didn't waste their time. Sakura frowned and shuffled slightly. No, Naruto-kun said I'm not worthless or useless. If no one trains me, then I will damn well train myself. Naruto-sensei taught me several ways of training myself. I know I could do it if I had to, Sakura said, and smiled slightly until she heard rapid knocking on her door. Sakura! Sakura! Come out here now! Make sure you're dressed. There is someone to see you. Sakura heard her mother call her name, and Sakura just groaned while scratching her scalp. Most likely it's Ino here to bug me again. Sometimes I wonder just what my life has become when I think about the friendship I ruined with her, Sakura muttered to herself. She jumped to her feet and placed her sandals on. She didn't put on anything else besides a robe. Screw anything else. Sakura walked down the stairs of her house and she noticed her mother, her father, and someone that she didn't recognize. Yes, Ka-san, what is it? I'm busy, Sakura said, and Mabuki smiled before the person stood to their feet. You are Sakura Haruno, correct? The person asked, and Sakura raised an eyebrow, but kept her emotions and face schooled. Yes, sir. How might I help you? Sakura asked, and the person narrowed their visible eye over her form as if examining her very closely. At that moment, Sakura thanked Naruto for the look he usually had on his face, or this would have unnerved her greatly. Impressive. You might just be what I have waited for. I will not waste your time or mine, so listen closely. My name is Shimura Danzo, and on my own authority I will be training you for the Chunin exams. Pack your things and report to this location. If you are even a minute late, then I will consider you expendable. I trust you to prove me wrong, Danzo said, and before Sakura could even talk back, she watched Danzo bid her mother and father a farewell before he exited the house. As he left, Sakura sensed two people about her age with high levels of chakra before the three disappeared like it was nothing. What was that? Isn't this amazing, Sakura? Danzo-san, of Konoha's council, and one of the men who fought along Hokage-sama, is willing to train you, Mabuki said while Sakura snorted. I'm sure that he has more reasons than he lets on, but it would be rude of me to deny him without first hearing him out. I think I'll turn in early, Ka-san, Tu-san. Good night, Sakura said and began walking up the stairs. Finally, our girl has her head on straight. Told you a bit of time with the brat would do her good, Kizashi said while Mabuki frowned. She turned a light glare to her husband, and he didn't back down from it until Mabuki ultimately sighed. Okay, fine. I was wrong this one time. There might be more to Uzumaki Naruto than I thought. If it will make you and possibly Sakura happy, then I will give him a chance, but he only gets one. Mabuki spoke firmly and Kizashi grinned widely. I'm sure one is all he needs, Kizashi said with an unknowing sparkle in his eyes while Mabuki raised an eyebrow, but didn't say anything more. Just the talk about Uzumaki Naruto stressed her out and left her exhausted. Besides, it was late, and they had to get some sleep as well. As much as Mabuki didn't like it, she would have some work to do issuing Naruto his spot of land to help with his weapons making, as well as have one of the abandoned buildings cleaned so he could do the normal things, hire workers, expand his place, stock inventory, things like that. Now, since Mabuki was going to be fair and reasonable, for once she had already found a good spot of land for him. Not so out of the way to draw customers, but it was also a good commerce point. It was also structurally sound, so he wouldn't have to worry about that. Originally, Mabuki wouldn't have liked anything more than for Naruto to collapse in a building, but now she wasn't so sure. He was mature, much more mature than most his age, and he had been reasonable with her the limited times that they talked. She hoped that he would find it satisfactory. After all, fairness was also a two-way street. With Naruto. Meanwhile, Naruto landed in front of his house and leaned against the door. He huffed slightly before he gave a slight wince of pain and gripped his chest. TCH, looks like I truly will need the help of Tsunade Senju. As much as I loathe the woman, I will still need her help. I'm sure this is catching up to me, Naruto said to himself. He waited a few minutes for the pain to stop before he held himself straight and walked inside. He twisted the door knob and opened the door to see a sight that didn't surprise him in the slightest. The house was abuzz with conversation as he walked the halls. Father! Naruto's eyes focused and he looked down to see Rinko, Tuka and Fu rushing for him. Naruto gently smiled as he picked them up into his arms and then looked forward. Mao, Rinko-chan, don't run. I haven't seen you in 3 or 4 years. Let me pet you! Amaru called out, and Rinko shivered as Amaru came around the corner. She then gasped when she took notice of Naruto staring at her with a raised eyebrow. Welcome home, Naruto-sama, Amaru said, and Naruto slowly nodded. He patted Amaru on the shoulder before walking into the kitchen. Amaru, call the house together. Tell everyone that it is time for dinner. Also, that should be enough for these 3. I don't know how long you have been doing this, but save it for another day, Naruto answered, and Amaru slumped her shoulder. Hi, she said dejectedly before she walked off to go and retrieve the others. Naruto watched her leave before looking down. Try to understand you 3, especially you, Rinko. She hasn't seen you in a while, and I want you to not be rude when it comes to these. I raised you better than that, Naruto explained, and Rinko sighed. I understand, father. It's just that she still scares me. It's like she's going to hug the stuffing out of my body, she explained, and Naruto rolled his eyes. I mean, look at Fu, Rinko called, and Naruto turned to see Fu shivering. She's really uninhibited when it comes to things like those, Fu said, and Naruto chose to remain silent. I see, he said, and came into the kitchen. As he stepped into the kitchen, already knowing what he was getting into, he felt his shoulder grabbed and he was spun into a hug. His eyes already took in the form of Ryuzetsu as her hair fluttered in the lamplight. I had wanted to do this ever since I saw you back and waved, Naruto-sama. It's so good to truly see you again, Ryuzetsu said while Naruto closed his eyes. You have grown into a splendid young woman, Ryuzetsu. I must take it that Fugai and Haku-san are here as well? Naruto asked and Ryuzetsu nodded. Hi, both are still setting up their things. We arrived here sometime after you left the house. Goza-san and Meizu-san found us training in a field and took us here. We're still getting most of our stuff settled, but we hope to not intrude, Ryuzetsu answered and Naruto looked at the ceiling. To turn someone away would be thoughtless and rude. So long as you behave yourselves, then no complications will come, Naruto responded. Ryuzetsu nodded firmly before she let go of Naruto's body and stepped back. Hey Rinko, Tuka, Fu. It's good to see you three again, Ryuzetsu said, scratching their ears, getting light whimpers from each of them as she repeated her action a few times before removing her hand. Get settled. I will make dinner, Naruto said, letting Rinko, Tuka, and Fu drop to the ground. The four watched Naruto walk to his place and proceed to begin letting out ingredients to start cooking. It feels good to have your cooking again, Naruto-sama. Remember in our group that you had to prepare all our meals because none of us, save Kisa-sama, could make anything edible? Ryuzetsu asked, sitting in one of the chairs. You were all insufferable then. You are all insufferable now, but it is better for you to stay that way, Naruto said, slicing carrots with a knife. Ryuzetsu placed her elbows on the table and her head in her hands. That's true. Those were the days, weren't they? Us misfits traveling together, well, if you could call it that. We pretty much just followed you wherever you went, not that we regretted it, the white-haired girl said, and Naruto slowly nodded. I doubt that you are such a brazen term as misfits, but I would refer to you all as special, the blonde commented. You know, you really have changed. You didn't talk this much before, Ryuzetsu said, and Naruto, now on to cutting some cabbages, suddenly stopped. He narrowed his eyes as he looked at the pot filled with bubbling water. He could see his reflection in the water. His eyes stared at themselves and he wondered how he had changed. Ryuzetsu's words buzzed in the reaches of his mind and he couldn't help but sigh. Deny it as he might, he had indeed changed from those years. He didn't put much thought into it now, but with his recent partnering with Mitarashi Anko, then that solidified it. It actually still confused Naruto that he was this way, but he welcomed the change if only slightly. Naruto clenched his hand before looking back. I have merely come to an understanding of myself and my former foolishness, Ryuzetsu. I will continue to make mistakes, but if those mistakes can better my future, then I will walk forward and I will lead you all as best I can, Naruto responded, and Ryuzetsu gave a firm nod with a warm smile. Over the course of about 20 minutes, everyone started to arrive from their respective rooms. Each person looked more rested than the last. Naruto didn't bother with telling them about their sleep attire, but he'd make a note of that in the future. The look on Inari's face more or less confirmed it, as did the chastising of Tsunami and Kisa. Naruto, with the help of Amaru and Ryuzetsu, placed the food on the table. Rinko, Tuka and Fu settled themselves in their bowls near their father's plate, while the sound of grumbling stomachs was easily heard. Soon everyone was seated and Temujin pulled out a seat for Naruto. Thank you, Temujin, Naruto said, sitting down. Hi, Naruto-sama, Temujin said before taking his place in his seat as well. No one said anything for a little while. Zabuza, Haku, Tsunami and Inari just stared in confusion. No one was eating, but they all had a deep-seated look of utter desire in their eyes. The sound of hands smacking into each other alerted everyone as Naruto put his hands together. Temujin followed, and so did Amaru. You really haven't changed, Naruto, Kisa thought before proceeding to do the same. Fugai, Ranka, and Kamira followed also. It was then proceeded by Tsunami, Inari, Haku, and lastly Zabuza, and all spoke together. Itadakimasu, they all said firmly, and Naruto didn't even open his eyes fast enough before he heard the sounds of eating. A sigh escaped his lips before he fully opened his eyes and watched those familiar with his cooking eating it with gusto. Tsunami, Haku, Zabuza and Inari watched as the others ate their food happily. Meizu had tears in his eyes as he ate. It's been so long since we've had Aniki's cooking. There's nothing better, he proclaimed, and the others nodded hastily. Tsunami and Inari shared a glance before shrugging and decided to start eating. Everyone watched them taste the food and Tsunami paused. The rich taste, the perfect blend of spices, the wonderful combination of whole ingredients. Naruto-kun, this is wonderful, Tsunami said, and Naruto bowed slightly. You humble me, he returned to her, and Inari grinned happily. He couldn't let his mother know this was better than her cooking, but it was something else. Haku and Zabuza then followed their lead and began to eat. For them, it was definitely good, but they didn't have the bouts of insanity that the others had. But maybe it was because they weren't used to this type of atmosphere. Naruto gave everyone the opportunity to settle, as he didn't talk about what he wanted to write then and there. He'd let them enjoy themselves a little more. They had more than earned it, and Naruto was definitely fair where praise and acknowledgement were due. He had discovered that before he started training Sakura, but it was with Sakura that it truly began to manifest itself. After about an hour, and everyone slowly picking off various morsels off their plates, and Naruto spoke. Now then, he spoke. Those two words seemed to be like a rush of thunder booming wildly as everyone straightened up. They looked at Naruto's eyes and could see he was ready to talk. No one said anything, just waiting for the blonde to speak. Kisa, who is now the fourth largest business after Exodus, Ayano, and Aderna? Naruto asked. Kisa quickly turned professional and cleared her throat. As of right now, the only corporation that has money next to ours would have to be Black Fortune, run by Takato Higumi, Kisa responded. I have heard that name before. He's the one who's most profitable in the business of dealing with casinos, bars, and adult entertainment, Tsunami said, but none looked worse for wear about hearing that. Oh sure, Amaru seemed rather disgusted, but she realized that was the world they lived in. Hi, Aniki actually had Meizu and myself for a mission to investigate them at one point. As you know, Tsunami-sama, there can only be 4 top businesses in the world, but people like to put their pathetic labels to things, so you also have that whole top 10 businesses deal that most like to think about. Black Fortune was recently put into the top 6, well, it was better to just say that it was behind Gato, Aniki, Daichi-san, and Ayano as the 5th top business in the world, Goza said, and Amaru tilted her head to the side. Why are they so popular? Amaru asked, and Gozu instantly sighed while he pinched the bridge of his nose. No one seemed to have the decency to tell her anything, but Naruto held no fear of telling her the question. If she had a problem with it, then she could take her concerns with him, and he'd try to reassure her of anything if it got out of hand. It is merely because of the asinine pleasures that the male and female gender attempt to seek through those means. Humans make it a point throughout their lives to bet the things that are and aren't theirs. They also hold little to no shame in needlessly flaunting around their bodies or money. Now there are those who feel that they have no choice in the matter, as those who work in that industry have to happy bills or things of such nature, but it's more due to the idiocy of that type of business, Naruto explained calmly and clearly. Amaru nodded slowly while Fugai spoke up. Gozu, what did you mean when you said that Naruto-sama gave you a mission? Fugai asked, and the older of the demon brothers snorted and folded his arms. It's no surprise that you didn't know about it. You and Ryuzetsu were already off on a mission to the Land of Iron by the time Naruto-sama gave us the mission. We confirmed the existence that Black Fortune runs one of the deeper drug rings, then has blood so strong in the elemental nations that not even the Kage are completely aware of it. With this drug ring comes a substantial control over the black market, slave trade, as well as, well, I don't think I can say with a younger audience here, Goza said, and all eyes seemed to stray to Inari. The young boy looked meek for a second, and Naruto didn't pay this much of a mind. Inari wasn't ready for what most of the world had to offer. He'd learn sooner or later, but for now Naruto would, this once, allow for ignorance to be bliss. He was still a child, and unlike Naruto, he would be able to enjoy it. Very well, you can explain that later, but proceed, Gozu, Naruto told, and Gozu nodded. Hi, Aniki. Anyway, Meizu and I found out that Black Fortune and Gato's shipping had a very good partnership. In fact, it was so good that this was one of the main reasons Black Fortune even made it to the list. Think about it, Goza said, and everyone did indeed do that. Gato was in the slave trade business and Black Fortune ruled a portion of the black market. Of course the two would find each other. Gato ships slaves to be sold off on his ships, and Black Fortune gives Gato shipping a great deal of power in the black market. It does make sense, Haku theorized. The idea of dealing with more of Gato's problems did not appeal to Tsunami in the slightest, but she managed to work herself past it. But that should all change, right? Right now, Gato should ashes with what some of the people told us from Wave or something like that. What exactly did you do to him? Ryuzetsu asked, but Naruto put a stop to it for 2 reasons. 1. Inari was still there, and 2. He didn't need more reminds of the corrupt businessman. It matters not what was done to him. Gato has been taken care of and we will move on, Naruto claimed firmly. Ryuzetsu nodded without a second thought and ceased her questioning. But what does that mean for Exodus? We took over Gato's shipping, didn't we? Tsunami asked and everyone nodded. That's right. Now doubt the remnants of Gato's business are going to merge with Black Fortune as some form of retribution. Tsunami, I will advise you to keep Zabuza and Haku close to you. You are the one who essentially controls the sea routes and our ships since you were offered manager of our transport division. No doubt they might come to you for some kind of arrangement, and if you say no, then I'm sure you know what will happen, Kisa said, and Tsunami nodded firmly. Zabuza frowned, as did Haku. Both seemed ready for anything. Zabuza had known about Black Fortune and Takato Higumi. Now that was one businessman that uttered disgusted Zabuza, and that was saying something. Naruto-sama. Naruto turned his head and noticed Temujin staring evenly at him. Kisa-sama had me send you a scroll containing the contents of a letter that we received. You have it right? Temujin asked, and Naruto settled for staring at him for a little bit before reaching into his jacket and pulled out a scroll with the seal of a black butterfly. What is that? Tsunami asked, and Kisa snorted. A scroll from Black Fortune, Kisa said, and Tsunami gasped while Naruto narrowed his eyes. But how did they know? Tsunami asked, however Kisa shook her head, her green hair flailing around slightly. No, they sent this a while ago. It's more of an invitation to the 9 major companies to look at some kind of show or something like that. It's still supposed to be a year off. No one has offered a reply yet, or at least we know that Daichi and Ayano haven't anyway, Kisa responded, and Tsunami breathed a sigh of relief but shook her head. What is this event? Fugai asked. Kisa shook her head. It didn't specify. We'd have to go to find out, Kisa replied back, and everyone glanced to each other. By any chance do you think that has to do with slave trade? Renko surprisingly asked. That remains to be seen, but we will hold on to this for now. Chimera, take this and seal it away, Naruto said, handing the scroll to the young woman. Hi, she said before placing it away. Good, now then, you all shall get your rest. You have a long day tomorrow, I'm sure, as do I, Naruto said, and everyone nodded. They began to walk off, and slowly the house became silent. The only sounds were from Rinko, Tuka, and Fu. Father, Naruto looked down. Please be careful, Tuka said. Naruto proceeded to narrow his eyes before he gave a small smile. You have no need to worry. I will do as I have always done. However, as much as I deny it, I believe I will need help when the time comes, Naruto replied, and they nodded as Naruto picked them up and walked off. That night, the house was silent. Nothing stirred, not even a mouse. Nope, no mice, thank Kami. However, Naruto opened his eyes. He couldn't sleep for some reason. Getting up from his bed, Naruto placed the cover over his kids' bodies and walked out of his room. His feet were silent across the wooden floor before he made his way to his rooftop. He landed on the tile and felt heat of the day on his body. It was summer, so even the nights were hot. Go figure. Naruto stood and glared out over some of the buildings in Konoha that he could see. Somewhere in here was Orochimaru and Kabuto. Naruto held his head down, and a soft breeze blew through his hair. How rare to see you up so late. Naruto didn't turn around, already knowing the person had been watching him. You should be asleep, Naruto commented before he saw the person stand next to him. Didn't know I still had a bedtime, she said with a smirk, and Naruto snorted. Of course not, Naruto replied. Standing next to him was Kisa as she looked out into the village as well. Forgive me since I still don't understand the potential that you see in this place, Kisa said, and Naruto sighed. That would require you to let go of this history that you have with this village, but as needless as I see it, I don't believe I can tell you otherwise, Naruto said, and Kisa folded her arms. It's not that you can't tell me otherwise, it's that I'll just have to see it for myself, Kisa replied, and Naruto slowly nodded. Both didn't know how long they stood there, but Naruto felt Kisa's hands on his shoulder. He narrowed his eyes before they slipped down and draped over his body and found each other. They looked and brought Naruto into a tight hug. "It's good to see you again, Naruto. I'm really happy that you're okay," Kisa said softly, and Naruto closed his eyes. "Thank you for the things you've done for me, Kisa. Also, I am sorry," Naruto apologized. Kisa didn't know what Naruto was apologizing for, but she just went with it. "Apology accepted," Kisa replied, basking in the blonde's warmth. The two stayed like this for a bit, and slowly Naruto's eyes hardened. "Kisa, you are one of my most trusted companions. There have been very few secrets between us, and I will have it stay that way," Naruto said suddenly, and Kisa blinked, wondering where all of this came from, but didn't seek to stop Naruto. She felt Naruto move out of her grasp and turn around. His eyes glared into hers sternly, and Kisa frowned, but didn't make any sudden moves. "Naruto, is something wrong?" Kisa asked with narrowed eyes, and Naruto narrowed his eyes right back. "Whether this is right or wrong is entirely up to your opinion, Kisa, but I will be honest with you," Naruto said, and Kisa nodded slowly. Naruto took in one last breath of fresh air before he exhaled. Naruto somehow knew that he had to be firm in dealing with this, or else some kind of hell would befall anyone who angered Kisa after this night. "What is it?" Kisa asked, and Naruto closed his eyes for just a second before opening them again. "Kisa, it is highly possible that your daughter is still alive," Naruto answered. "Oh, did I say something wrong?" Rinko sighed as she watched Tuka and Fu sleeping soundly right next to her. Once again, their father was working late on some project that he had in the basement, while they rested. As Rinko thought about it, she honestly wondered why he always kept to himself this time. They were his kids, so naturally they should be able to keep up, but alas, it wasn't that simple. Rinko sighed as she jumped from the couch and to the floor. Her crimson tail wagged left and right while the lone light in the dining room flickered on and off. "Father, you seem so distant now. I wish you would let us in more. I know you only want to protect us, but why do you feel so far away?" Rinko asked herself. She slowly sighed before she felt a pat on her head. "Yo Rinko Gaki, what's the matter?" Rinko turned her head and noticed the grinning smile of Anko Mitarashi behind her. "Anko-san," Rinko said while Anko puffed out her chest. The one and only, the purple-haired Kunoichi spoke proudly. Anko had, conveniently, fallen asleep in Naruto's house once again and only woke up a few minutes ago. The woman had been out training in the forest, and her body smelled of sweat, which was why she was ready to make use of Naruto's shower. "What's wrong with you?" Anko asked, and Rinko sighed. "Father seems so far away. Maybe it's just me, but I wish we had a better relationship with him. I want him to know that he's not alone is all," Rinko said, and Anko raised an eyebrow before patting Rinko on the head. "Now I'm sure Naruto loves the three of you. Hell, you're the only ones he'll show a real smile to, but if you really want a better relationship with him, then it's simple," Anko said, and Rinko raised an eyebrow. She nodded eagerly while Anko whispered into her large ears. Rinko's eyes widened before a large smile appeared on her face. Next morning, Rinko, Tuka, Fu and Naruto were all eating peacefully before Rinko spoke. "Father, let's have sex!" Rinko exclaimed happily. Naruto's chopsticks stopped in the middle of the air as his mouth hung open. Tuka arched an eyebrow, as did Fu. "Sex? What sex? Is it fun? Tu-san, let's have sex. Tell us what it is. Can I do it with Rinko and Fu? Let's have sex," Tuka said excitedly. "Sex, Tu-san? Is it good?" Fu asked with a large smile, waving his tail back and forth. Naruto looked at his three children sternly before he dropped his chopsticks to his bowl and sighed. "Rinko, my daughter, where did you learn that word?" Naruto asked as the door opened. "Good morning, Gaki," Anko said, and Rinko smiled. "Anko-san told me. She said that with this we'd be even closer than before," Rinko said, and Anko paled. Naruto's eyebrow twitched as he turned towards his partner. "Anko-san," Naruto said in a deathly low tone. Anko gulped and backed away. "Oh shit! The amazing Mitarashi Anko makes her escape!" Anko shouted as she disappeared in a puff of smoke. Naruto stood to his feet, and his kits watched as Light began to bash against each other several times. Why do they always run? Foolish Anko, you will be dealt punishment, Naruto said before he shot off after her, leaving Rinko, Tuka, and Fu alone. So are we going to have sex or not? Tuka asked excitedly. No, we have to do it with father, otherwise we won't get closer as a family, Rinko chastised. Hey, what is sex anyway? Fu asked, and Rinko paused. I don't know. Well, we'll just have father explain it to us when he gets back, Rinko said, and her brother and sister nodded happily as they ran off to watch TV. It was a good day in Naruto's house. Minutes later, the kids heard shouting. I said sorry? No! I don't bend that way, Naruto. You wouldn't do this to your partner, would you? Anko asked, and they weren't sure, but they thought they heard someone else. What shall I do with her, Naruto-sama? Rusted kunai up the ass? Asked a third voice in a happy tone. Surprise me, was all Naruto said, and the kids didn't know it, but Tenten grinned widely. La 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 la. You will not play pranks on Naruto-sama, Tenten called out while Anko shouted at the top of her voice. To this day, people wonder about the day Anko truly became known as the Snake Mistress. That's it for part 11. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.